What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Denver Sports Betting Show. Anthony Gabriel back here with you, joined as I am every week by my co-host. It's Mr. Betts in Denver. Dylan, buddy, how we doing?
I'm doing good. I'm so excited for this college football playoff to go ahead and get kicked off. I mean, just so many interesting matchups. It's going to be amazing.
Doesn't it seem like Championship Saturday was forever ago? I feel like we
Yeah.
have been talking about, all the anticipation, and
Mhm.
then the games happened, and then we had the brackets, and we know just all week it's been everybody complaining about it now because that's what we do.
Yep.
So I want to get your take on it. Again, as I said, we beat it to death all week. Me personally, I've come around on the 12-team playoff. At first, I wasn't so, I like the 4-team. I thought, it was kind of clear cut. There's always, because every year it seems like there has been that little top crop of teams that kind of sets themselves apart. But this year, it is so wide open. I mean, what a better year for the 12-team playoff. But we know this thing's going to get fixed and tweaked
Yeah.
and blown up, and it's going
It'll
to
be
14
teams. Yeah. It'll be 14 teams, which actually I looked at it. It looks a lot better than 12 teams, honestly. I'd rather have 14 than 12, to be honest.
It's just, here's when it came down to it and everybody was between SMU and Alabama, I don't have any sympathy for you if you lose 3 games. Sorry. And that's like, oh, well, when it goes to 14, Alabama would have gotten in. I want Alabama to be out because they lost 3 games. That's the point of the regular season. And I think what eventually happened too is the conference, they got to figure out what they're going to do with the conference championship games.
Yeah, totally. Because, I mean, you can't have teams getting punished for getting in those. And last week, I would like to kind of pat myself on the back. I said Alabama plus 300 to not make the college football playoff. They don't make it. SMU was minus 900 to make it by that morning after the conference championship game. So thank you, Clemson, for coming through. They ended up winning outright, and that caused Alabama to miss the playoff. So now we all don't have to deal with that. So thank you.
Well, crazy how they kind of threaded the needle for the perfect storm, where everybody kind of said, well, if SMU loses, but it's and it could be, they come down tight. Did you think they were going to go for 2?
I honestly wasn't sure. I would just hated to be in that situation, in that position. So
I mean, just they come down. Clemson makes a 56-yard bomb to get in, and SMU gets in, which like I said, I'm totally fine with. You can make cases for either team, but when you get down to the last team in, it's just like the NCAA tournament. You're a bubble team. You put yourself in that position. Every team has the opportunity to win in every game and get in now. That's it.
Yeah. No, all you got to do is win your games. And I mean, I'm glad 3-loss Alabama didn't make it, so we didn't set a precedent that, 3-loss team that doesn't make the conference championship should get in. I feel like that's why a lot of the committee didn't want to set that precedent either.
Yeah, well, we all know this is going to be going to 14, and but again, like I said, the main thing is, will these conference championships go away? Because now that you have a 12, once a 14-team playoff, there's no reason for it. It used to be kind of like that playoff, play-in game to get in, but it'd be like playing a full regular NFC season and playing the AFC Championship and then going to the playoffs. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do when it all comes down to it. If it moves to 14, if it doesn't, obviously it's probably going to. That's what it seems like everyone wants, and that's the direction it's headed. So, and then they're talking about increasing the college basketball tournament size, and I don't want that.
No,
there's already enough teams. 64 is enough. We don't need to go to 78.
Well, what happened? It just waters down the regular season more, and that's what makes college football, the best. Is because every week is essentially a playoff, and that's what gets you into these top 12 teams. And when you look at college basketball, there's some great games, during the regular season, but they're not consequential. So that's why it's like, don't expand the college, don't expand the basketball anymore, don't expand football anymore. What did you think of the seedings, the way where teams were at, and how eventually went? Again, we know it's probably going to get changed with the buys. But what did you think of where teams were?
I think it was interesting to see Boise State and Arizona State get a bye. Obviously, I mean, they won their games they needed to win, but still, the committee in the past has kind of ranked teams like that, and like Arizona State and Boise State lower than other teams. So I thought it was surprising to see them seated number 3 and number 4 right there. I think that was the biggest surprise for me.
Yeah, I think I was kind of surprised. I thought ASU and Boise would be flip-flopped with how much of a role ASU has been on. I thought they would have been ahead of Boise, just based on the schedule that they've played, beating these ranked teams, looking so dominant in their conference title game. The thing for me that just didn't sit right with me is, like you said, you don't penalize these teams for making their conference championship game, but with these lopsided schedules now in conference, you didn't really, Penn State, did they necessarily earn their way in there? Or it's just because, I look at it on the whole, when you look at them in Ohio State, just because Ohio State played Oregon in the regular season. Penn State just played them one game later and lost. So they didn't really earn their way in. I mean, the body of work was still the same. It's just because it was the title game, why they were in the conference championship. But that's the thing, when you look at it, they really didn't, like you said, penalize these teams for being in their conference championship games. But it shouldn't be a free roll. It shouldn't be, you get there and you move up if you win, and if you lose, you don't go backwards. Because that was the thing for me when I looked at Penn State versus Ohio State. How is Ohio State not ahead of Penn State? Only reason is because Penn State played in the conference championship game.
Yeah, Ohio State's probably definitely the better team, way more talent, especially on the offensive end. I mean, they probably should be up there, but then that loss to Michigan at the very end of the year as well probably hurt their chances as well. But yeah, I was surprised kind of not to see Ohio State over Penn State too, just because I don't know. I feel like
they beat them head to head, and Penn State didn't even score a touchdown.
Yeah, and Ohio State, I feel like played Oregon closer and better than Penn State did too. I mean,
at Oregon.
Yeah. I mean,
and Ohio State had the IU win, So, you look at Penn State, their best wins Illinois. And then, as we know, then they get the dream draw, getting SMU and then Boise State. It's like Penn State just keeps, lucks into the dream draw. They've got the 4th best title odds, but that's just because of the draw. So, again, I'd rather have it be this way, where we're arguing about the seeding versus who got in and who gets a chance. Ultimately, you're in, you get a shot to roll, and that's kind of what we do. How we pick apart the bracket come March Madness of who got misseeded, who was too low, who was too high. But I think when you look at the the path that Oregon got, getting Ohio State and Tennessee, then they might have to play Texas. Then it's a much tougher road than what Penn State got, than the losers of the and Texas getting Clemson and then Arizona State. I mean the losers lucked out and got the best of the draw. Yes, you don't get the bye, but I think they'll tweak it, they'll work itself out. But eventually, I think you'll just, like I said, do what they do with March Madness. You'll get an automatic invite, but you're not going to get the bye. They'll seed you appropriately. Where this is going to go.
No, and I mean, it's going to be interesting. There's so many good matchups. I mean, I think that Clemson Texas game, did you see Klubnik and Ewers the last time they played each other was in the Texas State Championship?
It's crazy.
Yeah, I know. Now they're playing in the college football playoff. I mean, Klubnik beat him last time. We'll see if we can get the better of him again this time.
I saw that, and I also saw, if you saw the stack up of Trevor Lawrence and Cam Rising's careers. I saw that. They were both in high school at the same time, and Trevor Lawrence has been in the NFL 4 years now, and Rising might have another year at Utah. It's unbelievable.
I saw college basketball when it was Trae Young, and I can't remember the guy off University of Minnesota, but he played 4 separate years. He played 4 years at 2 separate colleges, 4 years each.
Yeah.
So he's had 2 separate college careers in basketball. It's just crazy.
That's the thing I'm talking about him. Yeah, breaking Pistol Pete's record, and it's like, well, not really. He played 8 years.
Yeah.
And that's we're getting. Well, let's get that gets into Genty. We'll get into that here in a minute. But before we do, quick thoughts, button up. We'll dive into these games a little bit more next week. But any bets you've made for the first 4 games of the playoffs?
I'm gonna have to take Clemson money line. I think they're gonna get the better of Texas. I haven't really been impressed with what I've seen from Texas. I mean, they played Georgia close, but still, it seems like they struggle at times, and I think Clemson. I don't know. Something just tells me Clemson's going to get this game.
The only reason that I know the Texas defense is just so good, and them at home, Clemson and their offense that they kind of came out hot against SMU, but that I still trust that Texas defense. We'll see what happens between Ewers and Arch. I think Arch gives them the better chance to win. Ewers just has not looked great. So is Clemson your most likely upset? You're going outright?
Well, it's more so I didn't want to take. I didn't think any other team could get upset. I thought Clemson probably had the best chance to upset one of these teams, and that's why ultimately I figured one team would get upset. I can't just pick all the favorites, so I would take Clemson. I think
one of them's going down. Money line parlay on all the favorites plays 2-1, and I think SMU, man. I think SMU getting the 8.5. Penn State, I'm just still not a believer. Anytime they play somebody that's good, they lose. And I think SMU is a really, really good team. They found their footing in the second half. They've got a really good core wide receivers. Jennings is very, very good at quarterback. And I think that could be a really, really sneaky game for SMU to upset Penn State. That would be, again, one of these teams that's happening. I think SMU might be the most likely. One thing you can do if you're a believer I think Tennessee, who knows where Ohio State is at mentally, if they can kind of flip the switch and get back to who they were. But, you can money line parlay all the faves. And if it's going into that Ohio State Tennessee game as your last game, come back and take Tennessee on the money line, and you can kind of have 2-1 on each side of it. But it's crazy that every single game is over a touchdown when we just had these 2 3-point spreads for every single conference game. Now these are all 7.5, 8. The Texas one we talked about as double digits. Yeah, it's in
a playoff game,
and having these cold weather games, in South Bend, Columbus, and Penn State. I wish we would have had. That's the only thing I want Alabama to get in, just to send them north. Or there's really no teams from the South that are going. I mean, that are going into really, really cold weather, but it's going to be awesome. I cannot wait for this thing to really get going. But we got a game this Saturday. We got Army Navy. So let's shift gears now. Let's talk a little Army Navy. What's your take on this game? We watch it every year. The pageantry of it is so cool. I've never been to an Army Navy game. Want to get to one.
Me either. I've never been either. It would be something amazing to see. It's just, one of those games that I feel like you just have to go to as a college football fan, like the atmosphere, and like you have to get there like 3 hours before, watch all the flyovers.
Right.
It's just such a sick experience,
Who any plays on the game?
Oh yeah, I think I'm going to take Army -6 here. Their rushing attack and their defense that gives up just 15 points per game really showed last week against Tulane, held them to 14 points, controlled the tempo throughout the game with their triple option. Bryson Daly and Kane Udo will probably wear down Navy's defense, and I expect them to maintain that ground game on Saturday. I think they're going to grind out long drives and shut down that Navy offense, and I think Army pulls away here maybe at the end. I know it's an academy game, so it's hard to, and it's Army versus Navy, so you never want to really take the favorite, but I'm going to take Army -6 here. I just think they've been the better team all year and really are just a good football team.
Yeah, that line keeps steaming up. It was like 3.5 now, all the way up to 6, even some 6.5 out there. I lean Army. I'd be a little nervous to take the 6, not to say I'm taking Navy. I know, like you said, in these academy games, you kind of just take the dog, and because you think it's going to be a tight game. I took under 39.5, as we know. The game hasn't gone over 40 points since 2013. And that includes a 2 overtime game, just because, again, limited possessions. All these teams do, and they are aired out a little bit more, but mirror images each other, run the football. I just take the under, especially at 39.5. It has been correcting itself lately here and going down lower. But I did make a small little play too on will there be OT. We saw it 2 years ago. It's plus 1,300. I took a little pizza money bet on will there be OT at plus 1,300, just in case it does go to OT, kind of hedging my under bet a little bit. So that's what I took.
No, yeah, I like that. And I'm just excited to watch it too. I mean, like I said, it's just one of those games you'd love to watch every year. Even
Yeah.
though the teams sometimes aren't good, this year they are. This year they both
Yeah.
have phenomenal seasons, so it's
Yeah.
gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's always fun to watch every year. So they're giving our military the spotlight there on Saturday afternoon. Before we get to NFL, let's talk Heisman quickly. It's going to be announced tomorrow night. Is this a done deal for Hunter?
I don't think it's a done deal. I think there's still, if you can get the line, I know it's shut down a lot of where I have Genty at plus, I think 1100, just because I do think Hunter's going to win, but the value, I think with the season he's had at plus 1100, that's just way too big of a price tag for me not to place money on that.
I think, Vegas is underwater with all the Hunter tickets they got. They know they're going to get, and I think they're putting some, but they got a lot of Genty money too.
Yeah.
This is the year when it's been such a quarterback dominated award, and you don't have that really dominant quarterback. With Dylan Gabriel getting the invite, but he's nothing. He's good, but he's not like the player. Cam Ward has been electric. Won the Davey O'Brien, but lost a couple games, and it's such a win-loss award for the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But I think Hunter does win it. I think he should win it. But yeah, Genty, everybody's kind of making this Genty push, which again, it's been an incredible season. But again, when you look at who he's done it against in the Mountain West, all these rush defenses that are in the hundreds, it's just, and then when you've got Hunter as one of the top wide receivers in the country. I mean, he won the Bettenarg for the top defensive player, won the Blitnikoff for the best wide receiver, and you had Genty win the Doak Walker and the Maxwell. So I think there is a little bit of drama, but I think like I said, Hunter does get it. I think he should get it, and I bet on him, so he better get it.
and the Heisman's coming to Boulder if he gets it, which is cool. That's so cool that UNC is going to have him as their Heisman winner this year. Hopefully he gets it. I mean, he should. I think the odds kind of reflect that, and that's why. And like you said, they're probably just trying to make some money by people putting money back on Genty because of the odds, like me. So
like we need some, like making it overinflated a little, attractive, just to like have somebody just toss some money on. And I hedged a little bit too, because with my 100 bets that I had, but that'll be tomorrow night. I hope he wins it. He should get it. He's had an unbelievable year. Do you think? Let me ask you this. I keep looking for props, for some draft props. Do you think Genty goes in the first round?
Yeah, I think he goes in the first round.
You think so?
I think he goes. I just don't think I don't think there's a way you can't take him in the first round. I mean, it would be crazy to see him fall that much. I mean, just with the season he's had, I feel like a lot of teams are even like maybe. I just don't see him falling in the second round. There's just no way, right?
If I could get, I wonder what the odds would be. I mean, it'll come out for sure. I think definitely if I get a 5-1 or better. Just because of the running back position in the NFL. And I mean, the guy, he had 300 plus carries this year. I mean, it's a short-lived career, and you got like Caleb Johnson there, who's a really good back. Just to have that capital on a first-round draft pick for a guy, great player, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see once we see some draft props.
I mean, we saw Lamar, who won the Heisman, fall to the 32nd pick. So I mean, anything can happen,
right?
So.
That seemed to work out, though.
Yeah, right?
So, speaking of NFL, let's move to Sunday. All right. So, looking at the slate, I have never seen an uglier list of 11 o'clock games. It's bad. I mean, Chiefs and the Browns, Bengals, Titans, Commanders, Saints, it's gross. So let's go to the big one here in Denver, because this is a really, really big game for two teams fighting to make the playoffs. So we've got the Broncos and the Colts. Broncos right now in that 7th position for that last playoff spot. Huge game for the Broncos, because, they win this game, they just about lock up that last spot. they get to 9-5. They're sitting in good shape with, it's really, the Colts and the Dolphins there. But if they lose, it's a really, really different conversation because their last 3 games are at the Chargers, at the Bengals, and then Chiefs will probably be underdogs in all 3 of those games unless the Chiefs already have it locked up and rest their starters. Meanwhile, the Colts got the Titans, the Giants, and the Jags. So huge game. And then the winner of this game would have the tiebreak. So I said, I'm seeing the line open it. What did you think of the line? Didn't you think it was a little high?
I really don't. I think the Broncos defense, I mean, they've turned Mile High kind of like into a fortress, and Anthony Richardson has barely completed half his passes and has more interceptions than touchdowns. I think it's going to be hard for him to get going versus Broncos defense, really. And I think they're going to shut him down early on. Bo Nix has been reliable under center. I mean, Broncos defense leads the league in sacks, holding opponents under 20 points per game. And, I think they get it done here.
I thought it was a little high. I took the 4.5. I would have just expected a 3. You did see it come down to about 3.5, but I thought 4.5 was given a little bit too much respect to the Broncos, and in a game of this magnitude, Anthony Richardson. You mentioned his splits have been different on the road than at home, but who was the who was injured for the Broncos though? Who's out? They said he's out. It's I'm looking it up here. It's the corner because he not Surtain. Shoot, I mean he was out. He got
Riley Moss.
Riley Moss. Yes, yeah. Thank you. So and you saw against the Browns, you saw Judy go wild. And I think that's a big loss for the Browns defense. So I think getting 4.5 is too many points. So I did take the Colts. If there are still some 4.5s out there, I just thought it was a little high. But again, big game, big playoff implications for both teams. I'm going to the game. I'm super excited. Never been to a Broncos. I've been to preseason game, never been to a regular season game. So I'm looking forward to it on Sunday. It's going to be a really good game, really good atmosphere.
It's a great atmosphere
here in Denver.
I went last year for the Chiefs game where they played in the snow, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, just awesome. Especially going to a game in the winter too. It just like hits a little different.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be a good one. So that's one of the good games we got in the afternoon slot. The big one, Detroit and Buffalo, though. This is going to be another awesome game. You got Detroit, Buffalo, and Philly and Pittsburgh. So let's talk about these briefly here. Detroit, Buffalo, thoughts?
This is going to be a great matchup, but I'm probably going to go with the Bills here. I mean, I just feel like Josh Allen is rolling. I think the Lions, are kind of due a loss, and I don't know if there's anyone who can stop the Bills right now, honestly.
Yeah, it does just seem like last week the Bills were kind of due for a loss, and now it seems like the Lions' turn. Campbell's been doing Campbell things, going for it on 4th down, crazy. A little bit extra rest for Detroit though. Having the 10 days playing on Thursday night, but I think it's going to be a really, really good game. I just kind of feel like the Bills get them though because of we've seen Detroit and that defense can be a little leaky. I'm not going to make a play on either side because I think it's going to be a really, really good game. The Philly Pittsburgh game though is interesting to me because we know Tomlin and what he does as a dog. 5 times this year he's been an underdog, won all 5 outright. And here he is as a dog again. And I just feel like eventually he's not going to win one of these because the Steelers are not a very good team. They just aren't. The defense is good up front. The D-line's up front. But Philly, man, they just I think they're just putting that line out there and wanting and putting that carrot out there. So I think Philly under 6. And then I'll be kicking myself when it's like 13-10 in the 4th quarter, being like, why did I do this? But I think Philly is just they're They're really, really good, and I think that is the side in that game. And you probably disagree with me, but I think Philly at the half is the play.
I like this. I like the Steelers here. I just really don't trust Philly. I mean,
Can't fault you. Yeah.
not necessarily. I don't trust them to win. I don't trust them to cover, especially crosstown rivals here. Favored by 5 points at home. Steelers have covered so much this year. Wilson has managed offense efficiently, and their defense giving up just a little over 18 points per game. And like you said, Tomlin has a knack for keeping these things tight, especially on the road in big spots. And I just can't take the Eagles here, so I'm going to lay a play on the Steelers at +5.
Yeah, and obviously the Steelers got the kicking advantage if it's coming down to a tight game with Boswell. But yeah, maybe I don't know. It's one of those where I think I'm going to be kicking myself one way or another for trying to outsmart the room. But I could see Philly just kind of putting a full effort together. But Tomlin, yeah, he just has a way, keeping it conservative, leaning on his defense. But man, that line just seems like everybody is just going to be like, give me the Steelers in 6. I mean, it seems like a little too easy. So again, maybe I'm trying to outsmart the room, but I think I could eventually see Philly, having this and then pulling away.
I do think if Steelers struggle to stop the rushing attack, it is going to be a long game for them, and they are going to get probably blown out. But if they stop the rushing attack and force Hurts into like tricky 3rd and long situations, which he is not the best at, I think that's where they'll really thrive. So I think it's going to depend on a lot of the game script and if that rushing attack for Philly can get going again versus the Steelers defense.
It's like I said, those 3 games there in the afternoon are going to be really, really good. So you can sleep in, you can take a little extra long brunch because the morning games, I know everybody's kind of getting into their fantasy playoffs. Hopefully you didn't have any on the team last night like I did with Cooper Kupp, because that was a lot of fun.
I did not, thankfully.
Gross. It's so gross. I hate these Thursday night games, but it's going to be just such a fun weekend. Before we get out of here, do want to talk briefly because we do have some college games during the week next week as bowl season starts. I love bowl season. I know it's so different than what it used to be with the opt-outs and the transfer portal. So that's my little bit of advice to people. You almost have to be projecting out and thinking about what's gonna happen. And if you can get some really, really good numbers if you're right, and if you're wrong, you're gonna be sitting on the wrong side of it. For example, I took it was a Cam Ward saying he's going to be playing in the Pop Darts Bowl. I don't know. Will he actually play? That was a line that went. I mean, Miami's full strength is such a better team than Iowa State when you look at power ratings. And then Iowa State went to a favorite, and then they announced Cam Ward's going to play, and now Miami's up 3.5. Ole Miss was a team that I was all set to fade because Lane and whining that he didn't get into the playoff, But then Malik Murphy for Duke announces that he's going to sit out. It sounds like Jackson Dart's going to play. So, I have my list of, play on teams. Minnesota is a team that just wins their bowl game every year. That line's gone all the way up to 6.5. So there's so much the lines go all over the place. You really kind of get out ahead. Pay attention, I was going to say, to before you make any bets. Look at who's playing, who's in the portal. Even guys in the port, you could be in the portal and still play. So, coaches leaving, that's always a play against for me, because a lot of times when the coaches are out, the players follow. Yeah, Marshall, they even have a team.
I mean, just unfortunate. But we do know Shadur and Travis are playing, so I'm going to lay the
maybe.
I thought Deion said they were playing, but maybe it's just all a ruse. If they do end up playing, though, I do like Colorado -2.5 versus BYU there. So.
I'm going to take Prime at his word. I think Shadur's playing no matter what, because hey, he's his dad and he's making he's calling the shots. Hunter might get an agent in his ear that says, wait a minute here, but Mendoza, for the quarterback for Cal, was like, yeah, I'm playing the bowl game. Coach said he was going to play. And then we had the news just the other day saying, no, he's not going to play for Cal.
Yeah.
So, and I was all set to bet Cal with him playing. So it is one of those. It's so much fun. It's frustrating.
Yeah,
it's
you
got
to get ahead of it.
Get these double-digit dogs, and don't be shy to take them on the money line, because you can get some really, really nice payouts for these big dogs. Because a lot of times these big dogs, if they're at full strength, they're motivated to be there, and they win the game outright. And the big favorites don't show up, and they're lose guys. So don't be afraid to take some shots on these big dogs on the money line too.
No, yeah, exactly. And we don't know who's playing yet or anything. So getting someone at double digits, maybe they'll be closer to 7.5 by the time the game comes around. So you never know what can happen. So you just saw with UNC, their coach, he's not going to be coaching anymore. They're playing UConn.
Yeah.
UConn probably has a chip on their shoulder. They probably want to win this bowl game. So that's another team I'm going to be looking at as well.
Them, Michigan, Alabama, they're going to run back last year. But I mean, this
for some reason,
the opt-out bowl of opt-out bowls. Who's going to be playing for Bama? Yeah. I took Michigan early at 13.5. That line's trickling down too. So
can Bryce play? Can Underwood play yet? Right? Let's just throw him in there.
Yeah, it's so much fun having these games, especially middle of the afternoon. Some of these a lot of times as well too. So we got a few sprinkled next week. A lot more coming that last week. After the playoffs. So I think January 28th, we got so many games on the 28th. I saw. So we're gonna keep diving in. Make sure you follow Dylan on X at Bets in Denver. Give me a follow on Instagram at @sham_locks, because we'll stay on top of it and give it out as much as we can. But these lines move fast and furious. So it's going to be a lot of fun here these last couple of weeks of the year. Like I said, those games this weekend, and then you look at the slate on Saturday with the playoffs. It's going to be awesome. So anything else, buddy, before we got to get out of here?
I think I'm going to take Pitt -7.5 versus Toledo. Oh, and the Cardinals versus the Patriots -6. Cardinals need this to even have a chance to make the playoffs. So, and they're at home, so I like that as well.
There we go. So we'll keep posting, keep following. Make sure you give us a subscribe here on YouTube. Give us a like, give us a comment. More exciting stuff to come for us at the Denver Sports Betting Show after the first of the year. Cannot wait. But until next week, we will see you next week. I'm Anthony. He's Dylan for the Denver Sports Betting Show. See y'all next week.